Africa Prime, brought to you by Jamison's Select Reserve.
Welcome to this special edition of Africa Prime. Now, on November 8, President Jacob Zuma appointed Advocate Pansy Tlakula as the new chairman of the Independent Electoral Commission of South Africa. In fact, she had been appointed officially on November the 4th, but was only publicly named on November 8. Now, she is the second woman to lead the South African Independent Electoral Commission after Brigalia Bam, who had been there for the previous 14 years. Tonight, she joins us to discuss elections and everything that has to do with every South African here on Africa Prime. Thanks very much indeed for finding time and talking to us.
Thank you and good evening.
As you come in, your plate must be full. What's on your in-plate as you stay at your new role, your new challenges?
A number of things. The first one is the elections in the DRC. Because as you know, the presidential and parliamentary elections in that country will be held on the 28th of November. And we have been requested to assist or to provide technical assistance.
This is as the IEC?
As the IEC, to our sister organization in the DRC. So we have a team that is assisting with logistics and with IT. Just before I came for this interview, I also had a meeting with International IDEA. And they have requested also our assistance in Kenya. Because as you know, the Kenyan Election Commission was named on Friday, this past Friday. So they've been inaugurated and they have to hit the ground running because they have an election next year. And that commission is also responsible for demarcation of boundaries. So there is going to be an orientation workshop for the new commissioners, and we have been requested to participate. Needless to say that on the home front, we're doing a strategic planning workshop, because in terms of the rules of National Treasury, we're supposed to submit our strategic plan for the following financial year on the 30th of November. So we've got a lot to do.
But then again, you coming in having been the chief electoral officer before, so you come in with a degree of knowledge of what needed to be done. But in your new role now, do you see any immediate changes that you will implement as you begin to stamp your authority on the IEC?
It's still early days, but when one looks at the strategic planning process, for instance, the commissioners have to set the policy and strategic direction of the organization, and that's what we will be doing. The plan itself will be developed by management. Right. So I think that there's a new thinking that has to take place on some issues as well. Sure. We still have to say and ask ourselves as a new commission, what is our vision going forward? Where do we want to take this organization, taking into consideration the good work that our predecessor, did during their tenure. But we also have to put our vision on the organization to say, having come this far, having done what we've done, what is it that we can do to take this organization to greater heights? Because that's what we have to do.
I would imagine that's a big question that occupies most South Africans who worry about democracy. I mean, since 1994, when black majority rule came into South Africa, the elections here have been hailed across the continent, indeed the world, as an unqualified success. But there's always that difficulty, isn't it, in maintaining it and ensuring that that remains so, because it's such an important integral part of the process ensuring that South Africa remains a democracy.
Yeah, I'll tell you where it starts. It doesn't just start with the management of elections. It starts with the manner in which members of the commission are elected. It also starts with the constitutional framework. You see, the independence of an election management body has to be in the Constitution. It has to be entrenched in the Constitution. The manner in which members are appointed has to engender confidence, because those members have to be accepted across the board, not only by political players, but by all South Africans. Right. And they also have to make sure that once appointed, those members remain true to their constitutional mandate of performing their functions impartially and independently without fear, favor, and prejudice. And they have to walk the talk. There's no point in telling people that, you will be true to the Constitution and not walk the talk. And that is where most countries go wrong, because you have to be able to take difficult decisions against everybody, against the ruling party, against members of the opposition, and all that has to inform your decisions has to be the provisions of the law and nothing else.
How difficult is it to get everyone to believe in the safeguards that have been put in place to ensure that your body remains independent? Particularly the ruling party.
It's to be able to apply the law equally and fairly to everybody.
Right.
That's what you have to do. If people or a political party has not complied with the requirements that you set, for instance, for participating in an election. I'll give you an example. We had a by-election a number of years ago in the Western Cape, which was highly, highly contested between the ruling party and the opposition. And the ruling party did not submit their candidate lists on time, and we disqualified them. They were 3 minutes late. The cutoff time is 5 o'clock. And we always tell people that when we say 5 o'clock, we talk about 5 o'clock, the IEC time, the time of the Chief Electoral Officer. Now, if your watch says 5 o'clock and of the Chief Electoral Officer says 5:05, that's it, and that's the cutoff point, and we disqualify them. And of course, naturally, they were extremely unhappy. And we told them that, look, that's the law, that's what it says. We publicized the requirements and the cutoff times a long time ago. You knew them. If you don't like or you don't agree with our decision, please go to court. And they went to court, and the court found in our favor. And we do that with all political parties. We did that with the Inkatha Freedom Party in 2011. They did not submit their documents on time, and because they blamed the weather for it, they went to the Electoral Court, and the Electoral Court found in their favor. We thought that there was a principle that we needed to establish, to say that the requirements as stipulated in the law should apply across the board to all political parties. If you begin to have exceptions in the way that you apply those requirements, that's when trouble starts. A political party cannot come and say, look, I could not submit because the weather was this and that. And we took a decision that we're going to appeal the decision of the Electoral Court to the Constitutional Court, for the Constitutional Court to establish the principle. And we were successful. So that's really, you know, how an electoral management body should function. It should be able to apply the law consistently, equally and fairly to all the political parties. Yeah.
Now, as you come in, of course, you're not coming in on a clean slate, if you like. I mean, you're coming on a very solid platform, as we have just been discussing now. But surely there must be areas that need to be improved.
Yes.
What should improve?
We are a continuously improving
South Africa
organization. Here. Look, people are agitating for maximizing the use of technology in our environment. There are people who are saying to us that we should introduce electronic voting, and political parties are also pushing for that. And one of the things that we're doing is to study the pros and cons of electronic voting, because it's not as simple as people want to work it out to be, because it comes with its own challenges. So we're looking at that. There is talk out there of a single election in this country. We have not been formally approached by our authorities on that, but we have heard that there might in the future be a single election in this country. And we are also preparing, we're beginning to have a discussion internally on that. If it happens, what will that entail?
Would you welcome it? Is that something that you would
It's early days. I mean, we don't know what is entailed. It depends. At the moment, for instance, look at our local government election. In some areas, people vote on 3 ballot papers. So if you introduce a single election, in some areas, people will have to be given 5 ballots. The time that it will take, whether we can do it on a single day, what motivates the decision for a single election? Is it cost implications for that? I don't know. So sure. It's really early days for us. We're just looking at it and studying it quietly and internally. Yeah.
What about on the issue of using technology to expedite the release of the results? I'd imagine that would be one of the big advantages to be had, because we know for as long as the results are out, the longer the risk that violence will erupt. Some people will begin to doubt the authenticity of the elections and all that. Just how difficult would it be to implement technology inside the electoral process?
Well, let me tell you, 12 hours after the election, we have the results. We don't just release them to the public.
Would it be nice to do it like as a
We don't want to do that, and because of the checks and balances that we have put, we only release audited results. We have to make sure that before we release a result, we have dealt with all the exceptions, because we have programmed our technology in such a way that it picks up exceptions. For instance, if you begin to have more people who have cast their vote than the number of registered parties, you know that it's an exception. So we deal with those exceptions. But as for capturing, that happens at the speed of a lightning, because our technology and our bandwidth is very effective. So we're able to get the results out in a very short space of time. What really delays the release is just to make sure that the authenticity of that result is assured.
Absolutely. Tonight, as I said earlier, we're talking to Advocate Tlakula, and we're discussing her appointment as the chairman of South Africa's Independent Electoral Commission. When we come back after the break, I'd like to find out a little bit of where she's come from and whether perhaps politics was on her mind as she was growing up. Join us after the break.